either. I'm talking about how I teach, so. Yeah, like, what is this teacher thinking? Okay, so parallel and perpendicular lines. This, I'm just going to draw, it's not probably the best drawing, but this is an example, right, of parallel lines. It's a little blurry. Okay, there it goes. So they go the same direction. That means they have the same exact slope. Okay? They use a little symbol like this for parallel. You'll see this a lot in geometry. Like if they're, instead of writing out the word parallel, they'll just use that symbol. And in a second, when we do perpendicular, that's the symbol that they use. Because perpendicular lines are going to what? Cross like that and make a 90-degree angle. That's the difference between parallel and perpendicular. So I'm just going to go through real quick and give you a bunch of equations so you can get used to seeing the slopes. So we're going to look at parallel lines. These are parallel lines. Y equals 2x plus 1. Y equals 2x minus 3. I could just keep going. Y equals 2x plus 1/3. What do you notice about all those? Their slopes are the same. So those are parallel lines. Does that make sense? Now, we're going to, of course, go a step further with that. Now, if I look at perpendicular lines, this is the one that's a little tricky. And it's easy if it's written in this form. Sometimes our equations aren't written like this, so we have to find out what the slope is. But that's all we're going to be looking for. Do the slopes, or do they match? Are they the same slope? Or are they perpendicular lines? And this one's where it's tricky. That means they are opposite reciprocals. The slopes are opposite reciprocals. Let me explain what that means. If I have a positive 2, what's the opposite of that? Negative 2. For a reciprocal, you flip it. So if I had a 2, I would flip it to 1/2. Okay, that's it. That's all opposite reciprocal is. So I'll just show you an example. I'll do 3. 3x plus 4. An equation that is perpendicular to this one would look like this. Negative 1/3 x. And it doesn't matter what this other number is. It doesn't. Okay? But do y'all see that? Those would be perpendicular because these are opposite and reciprocals. I'll write it as a fraction now. Let's have 3/4 x plus 1. Okay, if I'm looking at this equation, what would be perpendicular to that? What would be the opposite and the reciprocal? Well, it would be negative 4/3. So when it's a fraction, it's a little bit easier.
So you have to change it to negative and...
Yeah, so you have to do both things, the opposite and the reciprocal. What was your question?
That's what my question
Okay. So this is perpendicular, this is parallel. That would pretty much be the sum of our lesson, but now we got to dive into the problems. Okay, but those are the two things we're looking for. So let's look at problem 1. It says, write an equation of a line that's parallel to this one. Okay, so here's my line. Y equals 2/3 x minus 1. So I'm going to write an equation that's parallel to that, and they tell me what point it goes through. This is, we've done this before, but this is the hard part. So this is my slope, right? If it's parallel, that's what I have to use, the exact same slope. What is my slope? 2/3. So I have a point and a slope, right? We're just putting things together. What form do they want it in? They want it in slope-intercept, of course. That's okay, though. We can go back and forth. Is everybody good with this so far? They gave me this point to use, and they said, it's parallel to this. Then I knew, hey, that's my slope. Now, can you write an equation in point-slope form? It's over there on the board. Remember, I'm going to leave that up there. What does point-slope form say? Read the first part.
Y minus y.
Yeah. Okay, so stop there. Y minus the y value. So I'm going to write that down. Y minus, what's my y value up here that they gave me? 5. That's my y value. So y minus my y value. Then keep reading our formula. What does it say?
Equals m.
Equals the slope. Equals m. So what am I going to write? Equals 2/3. And then the next thing they have is what?
X minus X.
Yeah, x minus, and what's my x value? 12. Now, what would be great is if they wanted us to leave the equation like this, right? That'd be great. But that's point slope form, and maybe on your test you'll have some where I would just let you leave it like that. What if they ask for it in slope intercept form though? What do we have to do? Look at slope intercept form. What do you notice is by itself? The y. Y equals. So remember the 2 steps? There's only 2 steps to this. What are they? Distribute and then move that number over. That's the 2 things we have to do. And your calculator can do that for you. Okay? So I'm just going to bring this down and I'm going to distribute the 2/3. That means 2/3 times x. And then 2/3 times that negative 12. That's the hard part, but if you did that on your calculator, it should just tell you, what'd you get, negative 8? Yes, so minus 8. I'm going to show you how to do that on the calculator real quick for any of those. So all I was doing, 2/3 times x, now 2/3 times negative 12. For any of y'all that don't know how to do that, let me see if y'all can see this. Is that better? Okay, so I would put my 2/3, since it's a fraction, I'm going to put it in parentheses. So there's my 2/3, and then I'm multiplying it by what? Negative 12. And sometimes if it gives me a decimal, I would want to press math enter to see what the fraction is. But in this case, does it give me a decimal? No, it's just, what is it? Negative 8. And that's what we already had. Are we done? Is y all by itself? No, remember we said we do those 2 steps. Distribute, and now let's move the 5 over. So I'm going to add 5 over here to that number. So I get y equals 2/3 x minus 3.
Wait, so does this have to do something with the parts?
Parallel. These are parallel. Why are they parallel?
Because they have
The same slope. That's what I had to use, was the slope. So it told me, my instructions were, here's an equation, write a line that's parallel to that going through this point. So they gave me this point. Say that part. Yeah. No, that's fine. Yeah. So they gave me the point, and then they gave me the word parallel. So I had to know parallel means I'm using that slope. I'm not going to change that slope. Let me do another one. I know it's not easy. Are we ready for another one? Yeah? Okay, so I'm going to try. This one says y equals 2x plus 3. And I think this one's also parallel. Yeah. They say a line passes through this new point right here, and it's parallel to this equation. It's parallel to this one. So write an equation in slope-intercept form. All right? So here's my new point. Now, what's my slope? What slope am I going to use? Since they're parallel, I'm going to use the slope of 2. So you can write point slope form. I don't want to confuse you. You could also plug these in for x and y and solve for b, but we'll just use point slope form. So what does point slope form say?
Y minus Y.
Yep, so y, I'd like to put minus, but since I have a negative, what am I going to put? Plus 1 equals my slope, which is what? 2 times x minus my x value. So it ends up being plus 3. So y'all look at that for just a second and make sure that you understand why we have plus signs. Is everybody okay with that? No?
We'll do another one, right?
We'll do another one, yeah. We can do another one. But is everybody okay with this part? We're not done yet on this one. Okay? They want it in slope-intercept form. We're close to being done. This would be partial credit. What am I going to do to solve for y? To get y by itself? Distribute and then move my 1. So I'm going to just multiply this 2 times everything. Y plus 1 equals 2x plus 6. Any questions on that part? Then we said we move our 1. So I would what? Subtract it. So y equals 2x plus 5. And see, I can tell these lines are parallel because they have the same slope. They're going to be parallel lines. How do we feel about that?
Iffy.
Iffy. One more of those with parallel? Huh?
It's not bad.
Not too bad? Let's see. Let me look at one more. Gotta find one. Okay, here we go. I finished another notebook. All right, they have, do y'all want one with a fraction or without a fraction? Same thing we did our first one had a fraction. Let me see what's on your worksheet. There's some of both. I might do 2 more. I'll do one with a fraction and one without. So let me go ahead and do the fraction. Let's say, here we go. Y equals negative 3 halves x. I'm just looking. Okay. Y equals negative 3 halves x plus 6. And our new point is 2, negative 1. And we're looking at an equation that's parallel to this. If it's parallel, what's my slope? They gave me the point. Now what's my slope? Negative 3 halves. If it's parallel, we leave it exactly the same. So now I just write my equation in point, slope form because that's the 2 things they gave me. Point, slope. I will have to rearrange it for my final answer, okay? So I'm going to put y minus my y value. But what's my y value? So I put y plus 1 equals, what's my slope? Yep. Negative 3 halves times x minus, what's my x value? There you go. Does anybody have a question on where a number came from before I move on? Yes. Oh, I thought you were waving at me. Okay, now we distribute and then move our 1. This one has a fraction, but we can still multiply, right? If you don't know how, your calculator will. So y plus 1 equals a negative 3 halves x. I'm just going to write that down. And then what's negative 3 halves times a negative 2?
3.
A positive 3. If you didn't get that, watch, I'll just do it on here. Negative 3 halves, negative 3 divided by 2 times negative 2. And it would give me a positive 3. Okay, it'll do it for you. Now, last step, what do I move? That 1. I'm going to subtract the 1. So we get negative 3 halves x plus 2. That's our new equation. And you can tell that they're parallel because they have the same slope. Now let's look at one last one. I think I'm going to give y'all those. So here, I'll do this one. This one's number 2. I'm going to give you the odds on your sheet in a second. So y equals 2x plus 14. This is your equation. And your new ordered pair, your new point, is negative 4, negative 1. And we're still doing parallel. Our problems, we're still looking at parallel. So what's my slope going to be? 2. So I'm going to put m equals 2. Write that down so you'll know, okay, here's my point and here's my slope. And I've already done all the rest of this before. So I'm going to write y minus my y value. What's y minus negative 1? Y plus 1. Remember, it changes it. Equals the slope, which is what? 2 times x plus 4. Any questions? Any questions? We're okay? Now I'm going to what? Distribute and move my 1. So y plus 1 equals 2x plus 8. And then my last step, I'll subtract 1. So y equals 2x plus 7. There's my equation, and I can tell that they're parallel.
So literally all we're doing is just saying it's parallel.
Right now. So the next part, we're going to do some perpendicular, but I need to make sure that you understand parallel first. Y'all have done 1, 3, and 5, and you'll see this next part, they want to know if equations are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. All right, and you're going to do 7, 9, and 11. But you can't do them yet. I've got to teach them. I'll do 8, 10, and 12, and maybe even some others. In order for you to tell if they're parallel, perpendicular, or neither, you have to know what the slope is, right? Isn't that what we went over at the beginning of class? Every equation, if you need to know what the slope is, it needs to look like number 8 does. Number 8 was actually an easy one. Number 8, it's just got y equals and then y equals, right? That's the form it needs to be in. We call that slope-intercept form. What are the slopes here? 7/9 and -7/9. For those to be parallel, they must have been the exact same. Both of them 7/9. Is that parallel? No. For them to have been perpendicular, they would needed to have been opposite, which they are opposite, but are they also reciprocals? That means flipped. No. So this one is actually neither. All right. Let me just make a few up that are easy for a second, and then we'll get to somewhere we have to rearrange them. So if I have y equals 3x plus 1, -1/3 x minus 2. Looking at the slope, that's the number in front of x. What are they? Are they the exact same numbers? That's that one and that one. No. Are they opposite and reciprocals? Yes. Then my answer here would be perpendicular. Okay, if I had y equals 2x minus 4 and y equals 2x, I'll just leave it at y equals 2x. It's like adding 0. All you have to do is look at the slope. What do we see about these slopes? They are the what? Exact same, so we call that what? Parallel. Now, on your number 9, I'm going to do one just like number 9. It's different. You kind of have to think back to your project. Remember what your lines, because this is weird, like, I don't want to use this, y equals 9 and x equals -3. What kind of lines are these? One is what? Vertical, and one is what? Horizontal. What does that look like? What do these lines look like? Parallel or perpendicular? Perpendicular. So that one was a little different. So now you already have the answer to your number 9. Okay? They would actually be perpendicular lines. Then we'll get to the point where we're going to rearrange. Is everybody good so far? On how you... This one is weird. That's why I went over it. But think back to your project. You had 2 problems that said x equals a number, x equals a number. Those are vertical lines. When it says x equals -3, I'll just do that. I'll go over 1, 2, 3. That's x equals -3. Y equals 9 looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's a line that does this. What do you notice about those 2 lines? They cross and they make 90-degree angles. That's why they're perpendicular, okay? Because one was horizontal, one was vertical. That you just kind of had to apply some knowledge from our previous lesson. Now, let's look at one like number 7. I'll do number 10. Number 10 has y equals -6x minus 8. And then they have this equation. To be able to tell what the slope is, it must say y equals. This one's good to go, right? What is that slope? -6. This one, I need to move a few things around, don't I? I know. This is just like your number 7. So what am I going to move first? My x. Since it's a -x, I'm going to what? Add it over. I'll do a few of these. Okay? So I would write what? 6y equals, and what do they normally write first? The number or the x? The x. So I'm just going to write it first. X plus 12. That's an x and a positive 12. A positive x and a positive 12. Any questions on that part? Ask me now on what I did.
It's a positive x and you change it to a negative?
Well, look, whenever you move something to the opposite side, you must do the opposite thing. Since it was negative or minus, you can think of it as a minus sign, I had to add it over. Since I added it over, it's positive x, and I'm adding it to 12. Okay? Now, am I done? Is y all by itself? No, what's still over there with it? A 6. So I must divide everything by 6. That's how it starts. I'm just kidding. Okay, so divide by 6, divide by 6. Is everybody good with that? Yeah. Okay, do you see that there's a 6 being multiplied to the y? What's the opposite of multiplying it to y? So if you divide it right here, you must divide everything. Yeah. So these cancel out, and what am I left with? A y. Okay? 6 over 6 cancels out, and I'm left with a y. Then for this, I don't know if you remember, that's the same thing as 1/6 x. That came from chapter 1, like lesson 2. That's been a long time. But remember, that's like an understood 1 in front of your x. So that's a 1/6 with my x. And what's 12 divided by 6? 2. We had to do all that just to see if the slopes were the same or if they were opposite reciprocals.
Is that even necessary?
Yes, you have to do that. Yeah, so what is this though? Is it parallel, perpendicular? This one is perpendicular. That was number 10. You don't have to do number 10. Yep, let's do another. That one was perpendicular. That was my answer. Yes? Not a question? Yes.
So the only reason you added the x and did all that on the side is because it was a negative?
Yeah, I had to get y by itself. So I had to move my x and my 6. What are the two things over there with y? X and 6. Those are the two things you had to move. So you move your x first. If it was negative, then you added it. If it was positive, what would we have done? Subtracted, because we do the opposite. Then I still had to move that 6, divide by it. Okay, question, did I see a hand up? No? Okay. All right, next one, I'm going to do number 12. It says y equals 4x plus 12. Oh, thank goodness, that one's good to go, right? But then I have this one. I don't have y equals. This one's good. There's my slope. But on this one, what are the two things that I have to move? X and the 4. So since it's a positive x this time, we're going to subtract it over. Moving it over here. You're just taking it and moving it to the other side. Okay, so we get 4y, because those cancel out, equals negative x plus 32. I know, that might be kind of confusing. Look at the sign in front of x. What does it say? It's a negative x, so what do I need to write? A negative x. What's my 32? It is positive, so it is a plus 32.
Why wouldn't you put 32x?
32 minus x?
Like how you always write the x beside the number? Why wouldn't you
Because you can't combine them. They're not like terms. You have x and then you have a number. You can't combine them. If you were multiplying them, you could. Like if I had 3 times x, well, it's 3x. But 3 plus x, I would just have to write 3 plus x. And y'all, you could have written 32 minus x. That's the same thing. But I just want you to be familiar with writing your equation in the right order.
So you'll never have x minus 32. It'll always be negative x plus 32.
In this case, because my x was negative, I left my x negative.
And since your 32
is positive, I put a plus sign. Yeah. Okay. Then I have one last step. What is it?
Divide by 4.
Divide everything by 4. Divide 4, divide 4, divide 4. So my 4's cancel out here, which is what we wanted. And then on this one, what is that number with the x? It's negative 1/4, right? There's an understood 1 there. So I have negative 1/4 x. And what's 32 divided by 4? 8. But the number that I cared about was that one right there. What do I notice about those? They're opposite and reciprocals. It has to be both. So they are perpendicular. Do y'all want me to do another one? Yes. Okay. Y'all, if you're ready, you're doing 7, 9, and 11.
How would you do 9?
9, we already did that one. Whenever it was just like this one right here. It was just like this bottom area, number 9. Okay. Let's see. Let me find another problem. Here's one. 4y. Oh. Equal.
They have like the same thing, but one's a negative. It's perpendicular, right?
Are
Or
they?
is it neither?
It's neither. If they have to be opposite and reciprocals, it has to be both of them to be perpendicular.
So I don't have to solve it if.
All you need to do is find the slope.
Okay.
All right, then I have, let's see, y equals 4/5 x minus 8. All right, on this one,
What number is that?
a made up one. I'm just doing extra problems. So here we are over here. We're good to go because I have my y equals and I can tell that's my slope. But over here, what do I need to do? I only have one step. Just to get y by itself, I will divide by 4. That's what you're looking, getting y by itself. Divide by 4. So I get y is negative 5/4 x. And what's 12 divided by 4? 3. So these two numbers, are they opposite and reciprocals? Yes. I keep getting perpendicular. All these. So my answer would be perpendicular. Let me do one.
Have you done one like number 11?
I'm about to.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Okay.
I just have to
don't know if I did that right.
find it. Let me find one. Oh,
You could just do number 11.
I don't want to just do number 11. Oh, I'll just make one up. I can make one up. What's my slope on number? I'll just do this. Y plus 3 equals negative 2/3 times x minus 2. And then I'm trying to see what this one's going to be. Okay, yeah, I'll do this. I'm trying to think. Okay, and then I have this problem. All right, the good news is on this one, I know my slope. What's my number that was in front of my x? Negative 2/3. Remember, that's point slope form. That one, I can tell my slope is negative 2/3. So on your number 11, you can tell your slope is negative 1/2. All right? Now on this one, then I have to solve for y. So again, do I need to stop for a second and say something again? No? We're good. Now, I'm going to move my x and my 6. Well, my 4x and my 6. So how do I move my 4x? We subtract it. Subtract your 4x. So I would write 6y equals, and my 4x is what type of number? Negative. So I'm going to write negative 4x. My 14 is what type of number? Positive. So I'm going to write plus 14. Then what am I going to do? Divide everything. Do I need to slow down for anybody? No? Divide everything by 6. Divide by 6, divide by 6. So I get y equals, what's negative 4/6 reduced to? You can just type it in your calculator. Negative 2/3. And you can really stop here because do we know our slope?
Yes.
And I could divide both of those by 2 and I get 7/3. But what do I notice about my slopes?
They're different.
Negative 2/3 and what? negative 2/3.
Oh, sorry, I was looking at my paper.
Okay, they're the exact same. So what do we call this? Parallel.
Oh my gosh, I don't understand.
I'll do another.
I've got to 6y equal. I'm trying to do 9.
So you should have 6y equals what? Negative 3x plus 12. Is that what you have? Because 12 is positive. Just like, look at my 14. My 14 was positive, so it's negative 4x and plus 14. Negative 4x plus 14. So you have negative 3x plus 12, right? Then what are you going to do on yours?
Divide by 6.
Divide everything by 6. Yes.
So that would be y equals.
Hit on.
Yes. Hey, wait. Negative 3 divided by 6.
What is what is negative? Put it in your calculator if you need to. What's 3 out of 6? Negative 3 over 6. It'll reduce it for you. Press math enter to get it as a fraction. Negative 3 divided by 6. Yeah. So that's your slope. That's your number in front of x. So you're writing negative 1/2 x. And then what's your 12 divided by 3?
Negative 6. So that would be 2.
12 divided by 6. Yeah, sorry. 2. Mm-hmm.
So plus 2.
Yep, plus 2. So what do you notice about your slopes?
They're the same.
And what do we call that?
Parallel.
Mm-hmm. There you go. So we're just going to go over number 7 because some of them didn't get the same answer. And so I'll make sure that we understand it. They have this equation completely done. It's in y equals slope-intercept form. So we can tell what our slope is. What is our slope right here? 4. All right, make sure you're listening. Now, the problem with this one, do I have y equals? That's the problem. We must have the y by itself so that I can tell. This is standard form. I can't tell what the slope is in standard form. It has to be in slope-intercept form. So I must move this 4x over. When I move it, it's negative, so what do? I add it. Yes, I'm making it positive. So, yes, Chloe, I move it over here.
Okay, so whenever you have one in that form or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
is there, can you do it? Let me just show you.
Okay, let me just say this. So, what are your slopes? You can come on up. 4 and 4, so they are what? Parallel. But that's why it's the same because you moved it and it became positive. Let me see.
So how I did it was I figured out what each of these were. So like you see, here it is right here. So I found out that x is 3.25 and then y is negative 13, and I put them like that. Now I did the point slope or the
And you just found the slope.
yeah. Is that
And then, yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah,
okay? So I don't-
yeah, that's fine. You're just comparing slopes. That's just a whole nother way to do it. Yep. I just don't teach every way of every. Yeah, and that, hey, if it works, if it tells you what your slope is, then you're good. Okay, let's look at the next type. The next one, your instructions, notice what it says. It has the word what? Perpendicular and not parallel. And they want these equations also in slope-intercept form. It's the same thing that we did at the beginning, except we're not looking at parallel slopes. Y'all are going to do, what did I say, 17, 19, and 21. So I'm going to do these others, okay? So on number 16, they have y equals negative 2x plus 1, and they give us a new point that this line's going to go through, that this equation goes through. Now, when we were doing parallel lines, I would say, hey, my slope is negative 2. But we're not doing parallel now, right? We're doing perpendicular. You have to read your instructions, your directions. So opposite and reciprocal. What's the opposite? If this is negative, my slope will be what? Positive. And instead of 2, it's going to be 1/2. And now we're doing the exact same thing we did at the beginning of class. We're going to write our equation. Okay? Does everybody understand the whole slope part? Opposite reciprocal. Okay, so I'm going to write y minus my y value. But what's my y value? So I'll end up writing y plus 1 equals my slope times x minus my x value. Any questions on that?
So now you know your
Okay.
slope is 1/2.
So yeah, and you know your slope is 1/2, but now they just wanted an equation. This is an equation, but it's point slope form. They want an equation in slope intercept form. Yes.
I thought our slope was 2.
It was -2, but they want us to write an equation that's perpendicular to that. Well, what did we learn about perpendicular?
I thought you
Opposite.
just made it a positive 2, not 1/2. Okay, that
No,
confuses me.
no. It has to be opposite and reciprocal. It has to be both things to be perpendicular. So now, y'all, they want it to say y equals slope intercept form. Y equals. So how do I get the y by itself? Distribute and move the 1. Remember that? So I would get y plus 1 equals 1/2 x, and half of 2 is 1. And then my last step, I'm going to subtract my 1 over. Y'all, we should be getting really good at this. All these practice problems we've done today.
As long as we don't have
It's
to
not
start
that
graphing,
bad.
I think I'll be
This
all
part's
right.
not bad.
It's not that bad. This part isn't very hard. It's just like knowing like perpendicular.
And
and
yeah, I know.
parallel and-
We'll have a study guide day where we'll go over it again. We'll have a whole entire study guide day. Notice these are opposite reciprocals, so they're perpendicular. Yes.
So they wanted a point slope form and then turn that into.
Slope intercept form. Yeah. So you don't have to graph it.
Maybe
You start here, and then you end here.
Okay.
Okay.
Wait, don't move.
Okay. I'll wait a second. Next, I'm gonna do number 18.
It's not strict.
Next, I'll do number 18.
I'm going to try number 17. Just see how it goes.
You do that.
Y'all just be thankful. In Algebra 2, one of their problems right now takes 10 minutes to work out. One problem.
No, thank you, Miss Amanda. No, thank you.
Wait,
It's-
Wait,
why
can
is
you
there
write it
two
down?
Ys?
No, it's not.
Huh?
Why is there 2 Ys?
This is the equation that they started with. They want me to make a brand new equation that goes through this point right here. So they give me this point that's perpendicular to it. So this is my new equation. That was theirs. Yeah.
You confuse me because you see how you did the -1?
Yeah.
It was like 2 Ys and it confused me.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I see it. I see that. And I crossed it out. I see that why. Am I still recording?
Yes.
Miss Amanda.
You can keep working quietly or you can pay attention, but I'm going to do number 18 real quick. Just because we've only done one of those. Shh. All right, y'all listen. On number 18, they give me this equation. I need the slope from that equation. I cannot tell what the slope is because I don't have... Huh? So I need y equals. So I need to move my x. How do I move my x? Yeah, we're going to subtract it because remember, to tell your slope, you have to have the y by itself. So I have a -x and a -4. What's my slope of this equation? What number's in? -1. There's an understood 1 there. My slope of this equation is -1 or -1 over 1. What's the opposite reciprocal of that? 1. Yeah, it's just 1 over 1 again, and it's positive. So my new slope on number 18 is 1, and my point that they give me is 3, -6. We'll probably just do, did anybody do number 21 yet?
No.
Yeah, well, I might just have y'all do 17 and 19. Don't be mad at me.
Yay.
Can I ask you a question?
Okay. So wait, I'm not done. Wait. You can ask questions just a second. Hold on. Let me finish this one, and then I'll answer questions. So I would write, now my slope and my point, here's the timeout chair, y plus 6 equals my slope times x minus 3. Then what do? Distribute and move my 6. Well, it's easy to distribute a 1. because 1 times x is x, and 1 times negative 3, I put that. Now I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides, and I get x minus 9. That is my new equation. That's what I'm trying to find.
So whenever you have
So it's
like
y equals x
Whoa,
minus 9.
hold on, Shirley.
I was talking.
Y equals x minus 9.
Whenever you have like the x plus y minus equals -4,
Mhm.
you have to like make it. Or you have to get your m.
You have, yes, that's right. You have to find the m.
On number 19, it says 3x plus y equals
5. You have to what? Subtract the 3x. That's it. Move your 3x. Just minus 3x to the other side.
Like I used
Yes.
5 twice on the
Okay.
for both of the numbers instead of using 17. I was like, wait.